The darkness between stars was not empty. Admiral Taman learned this when Fleet Admiral Nayun emerged from the void with the real human fleet. What appeared around the trapped Consual forces was beyond anything Taman had imagined. Hundreds of massive ships materialized from nowhere, each one larger and more advanced than anything in his fleet. They had been hiding in dark space, waiting for this moment. "Impossible," whispered General Inho. "Our sensors show nothing out there." Admiral Taman stared at the displays with growing horror. His tactical systems couldn't get accurate readings on the human ships. They seemed to exist and not exist at the same time, as if they were partially in another dimension. Commander Wu Jin, who had been trying to warn his admiral for days, finally spoke up. "Sir, I've been studying the patterns. Everything that's happened so far has been planned. They wanted us to come here." Taman realized the truth with cold certainty. The small forces they had been fighting weren't desperate defenders. They were bait. The entire invasion had been a trap designed to draw the Consual fleet exactly where the humans wanted them. Fleet Admiral Nayun of the Terran Space Force came a transmission from the lead human ship. "You have entered our space despite clear warnings. You have attacked our people. You have forced us to reveal ourselves." Nayun appeared on screen. She was an older human woman with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind her, Taman could see a bridge filled with technology that made no sense to him. "Your fleet is now surrounded," she continued. "Your ships are trapped. Your escape routes are blocked. You have one chance to surrender." Admiral Taman tried to maintain his dignity. "We are the Galactic Consual. We do not surrender to primitives." "Then you will learn why we are not primitives," Nayun said simply. What happened next broke every rule of space combat that the Consual knew. The human ships began moving in ways that violated physics. They accelerated without engines firing. They turned without thrusters. They appeared in one place and instantly appeared in another, as if space itself was bending around them. Battle Coordinator So Young directed the assault from her flagship. Her tactical displays showed the entire battlefield in real time. Every Consual ship, every weapon, every movement was tracked and predicted by computers that thought faster than any living mind. "Implement pursuit doctrine," she ordered. "No ship escapes." The pursuit doctrine was something no other species had ever encountered. Most civilized races fought until one side retreated, then allowed the loser to leave. Humans had a different philosophy. Threats to human survival had to be eliminated completely. Captain Ye Jin commanded one of the pursuit squadrons. Her ships used technology that seemed to work across dimensions. When Consual vessels tried to jump to hyperspace, her forces followed them. When they tried to hide in asteroid fields, human sensors found them anyway. "Target the engines first," she ordered her weapons officers. "We want them alive to see what happens next." The human weapons were unlike anything the Consual had seen. They didn't just destroy ships. They seemed to reach inside the target and tear it apart from within. Consual armor that had withstood the weapons of 100 conquered races melted like ice in fire. But the most terrifying thing wasn't the weapons. It was how the humans used them. General Subin led the human ground assault forces. When Consual ships were disabled but not destroyed, her Marines boarded them. They moved through enemy vessels like ghosts, appearing where they shouldn't be able to go, striking where the aliens thought they were safe. Colonel Dongwu commanded one of her assault teams. His soldiers wore armor that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. Their weapons fired projectiles that could punch through any known material. But their most dangerous weapon was their training. Human soldiers had been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. They knew the layout of every type of Consual ship. They knew the weaknesses of every alien species. They had studied their enemies so completely that they could predict what the aliens would do before the aliens themselves knew. The Consual Marines tried to fight back, but they were facing something they couldn't understand. Human soldiers didn't just fight to win battles. They fought to eliminate threats to their species forever. Every move was calculated. Every shot was planned. Every action was designed to cause maximum damage to the enemy's ability to fight. "Sir," Commander Su-hyun reported to Admiral Taman with a shaking voice, "we've lost contact with 60% of our fleet. The humans, they're not just defeating us, they're hunting us." Taman looked at his tactical displays in disbelief. The humans weren't fighting a defensive battle anymore. They were systematically destroying his entire force. Ships that tried to run were chased down and eliminated. Ships that tried to hide were found and destroyed. Ships that tried to fight were overwhelmed by human technology that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. But the real nightmare began when the humans started. Using their cyber warfare, Junseo had been preparing for this moment his entire life. His programs had been sleeping in consual computer systems for decades, gathering information and waiting for orders. Now they came alive. Consual ships found their own systems turning against them. Navigation computers sent them into asteroid fields. Weapon systems fired on their own allies. Life support began failing on ships throughout the fleet. How is this possible? General Inho demanded. Our computers are isolated from outside networks. The humans have been inside our systems for years, Wu Jin said quietly. Every ship we've ever built, every computer we've ever used. They've been watching us, learning from us, preparing for this day. Supreme Admiral Moon Young sat in his command center on the Consual homeworld, receiving reports that made no sense. His strategic advisor, General Kyung Min, tried to make sense of the information coming from the Third Armada. Sir, Admiral Tae Min is reporting massive losses. His fleet is being destroyed by human forces using unknown technology. Moon Young studied the reports with growing alarm. The humans weren't just defeating the Third Armada. They were doing impossible things. Ships that could appear and disappear at will. Weapons that worked in ways that violated known science. Soldiers who fought better than any force in galactic history. Send reinforcements, he ordered. Sir, what reinforcements? The humans have revealed the locations of our bases across the galaxy. They're attacking all of them simultaneously. Moon Young felt cold fear settle in his stomach. What do you mean, all of them? The tactical display lit up with reports from across consual space. Human forces were striking military installations that were supposed to be secret. They knew where everything was. They had been watching and planning for centuries. Dr. Jae Hyun worked calmly in his laboratory as the battle raged. His job was almost done. The Pandora protocols were fully active now. Human forces across the galaxy were implementing plans that had been developed over 300 years. Phase 1 complete, he reported to Director Ji Hai. The consual military is being neutralized. Begin Phase 2, Ji Hai ordered. Phase 2 was something the galaxy had never seen before. The humans weren't just destroying the consual military. They were systematically dismantling the consual's ability to make war ever again. Human forces struck weapon factories, shipyards, research centers, and training facilities. They used precise strikes that destroyed military targets while leaving civilian areas untouched. But the message was clear. The consual would never again be able to threaten anyone. Admiral Tae Min realized that his fleet was doomed. The humans had trapped them completely. His ships were being destroyed one by forces he couldn't understand using technology that shouldn't exist. Signal surrender, he told his communications officer. Sir, the humans aren't accepting surrenders. They're destroying every ship that doesn't retreat immediately. Then signal retreat. Sir, they're not allowing retreats either. Any ship that tries to leave is hunted down and destroyed. Tae Min understood then what was happening. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. The humans had decided that the consual was a threat that had to be eliminated completely. Fleet Admiral Na Yun watched the destruction with calm eyes. Her forces were implementing the doctrine that humanity had hoped never to use. Total warfare. The complete elimination of an enemy's ability to threaten human survival. Admiral, her tactical officer reported. Consual fleet strength is down to 10%. Estimated time to complete destruction, 3 hours. Continue the operation, Nayun ordered. Leave no ship intact. The humans weren't just fighting a war. They were sending a message to the galaxy. This is what happens to anyone who threatens humanity's survival. Admiral Tae Min sent one final message to his homeworld before his flagship was destroyed. Tell the Supreme Admiral we were wrong about the humans. They're not primitives. They're the apex predators of the galaxy, and we just made them very angry. Vice Admiral Sung Ho commanded the advance fleet of the Galactic Consual. His job was simple: find human defenses and destroy them before the main fleet arrived. He had 200 ships under his command. All of them were powerful warships that had conquered many worlds. Admiral, said his communications officer, we're picking up a structure ahead. It looks like some kind of space station. Sung Ho looked at the display screen. The station was small compared to his ships. It appeared to be a mining operation. He could see humans moving around inside it through the windows. How many humans? He asked. Sensors show about 50 people, sir. No military signatures. Just civilian miners, Sung-Ho smiled. This would be easy. Signal the station. Tell them to surrender. The station's commander appeared on screen. She was a small human woman with short black hair. Her name tag said Station Chief Minji. She looked calm, not afraid at all. This is Chief Minji of Mining Station Gamma 7. What do you want? I am Vice Admiral Sung-Ho of the Galactic Consual. You will surrender your station immediately. Anyone who resists will be killed. Minji was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. This is Terran territory. You were warned not to enter. Sung-Ho laughed. Warned? By whom, you? A handful of miners think they can threaten the Consual fleet? No, Minji said. But we can defend ourselves. The communication ended. Sung-Ho shook his head. Humans were even more foolish than he had thought. Colonel Haewon, he called to his assault commander. Take your troops and capture that station. Try to keep some humans alive for questioning. Colonel Haewon saluted. Yes, sir. It will be easy. Haewon led 300 Consual Marines to the station. They were the best soldiers in the Consual military. Their armor could stop most weapons. Their guns could cut through metal walls. They had conquered dozens of worlds. The docking bay doors of the mining station opened as they approached. Haewon thought the humans were surrendering. He was wrong. The first thing he noticed was that the mining equipment in the bay looked strange. The second thing he noticed was that the humans waiting for them were wearing military uniforms, not miner clothes. The third thing he noticed was the weapons pointed at his ships. This is Sergeant Jun Ho of the Terran Defense Force, said the human leader over the radio. You are trespassing in human space. Leave now or face the consequences. Haewon was confused. These were supposed to be miners. Open fire, he ordered. The battle was over in 3 minutes. Haewon's soldiers were the best in the Consual military, but the humans fought like nothing they had ever seen. Human weapons cut through Consual armor like it was paper. Human soldiers moved faster than should be possible, and they fought with a fury that terrified the aliens. When the shooting stopped, 200 Consul Marines were dead. The rest were prisoners. Not a single human had been killed. Vice Admiral Sung-Ho stared at his screens in shock. His assault force had been destroyed by 50 humans. It wasn't possible. Sir, said his tactical officer, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Dong-min of the human ship Iron Will. Sung-Ho looked around. He didn't see any human ships on his sensors. Where is this ship? We don't know, sir. The human captain appeared on screen. He was young and calm. Behind him, Sung-Ho could see a bridge that looked nothing like what he expected from a primitive race. Vice Admiral Sung-Ho, Captain Dong-min said, I'm ordering you to leave human space immediately. This is your last warning. Sung-Ho was angry now. His pride was hurt. He had lost Marines to a mining station. He wouldn't be threatened by one human ship he couldn't even see. Human, you're surrounded by 200 warships. Surrender now or I'll destroy you. No, Dong-min said simply. You won't. The Iron Will appeared on Sung-Ho's sensors suddenly as if it had been invisible before. It was much smaller than his flagship. It looked old and simple. Sung-Ho ordered all his ships to fire at once. The human ship moved like a dancer. It twisted and turned through space, avoiding most of the weapons fire. The shots that did hit it seemed to do no damage at all. Its shields glowed bright blue but never failed. Then the Iron Will began to fight back. Sung-Ho watched in horror as the small human ship destroyed 3 of his heavy cruisers in seconds. Its weapons were like nothing he had ever seen. They didn't just punch holes in ships. They made them disappear completely. How is this possible? He whispered. Sir, his tactical officer called out. The human ship is hailing us again. Captain Dong-min still looked calm. Admiral Hyunwoo has authorized me to implement Protocol 7. You have 10 seconds to begin retreating or I will destroy your entire fleet. You're bluffing. Sung-Ho shouted. 1 ship cannot defeat 200. 5 seconds, Dong-min said. Sung-Ho hesitated. 3 of his best ships were already gone. The human vessel had weapons that seemed to ignore physics, but retreat from 1 ship? His career would be over. Time's up, Dong-min said. The Iron Will began moving through Sung-Ho's fleet like a shark through fish. Its weapons reached out and touched his ships and they vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged. Gone. As if they had never existed. In 15 minutes, Sung Ho had lost 20 ships. His remaining vessels couldn't even hit the human ship. It was too fast, too agile, and its weapons were beyond anything the Consual had ever seen. "Retreat," Sung Ho finally ordered. "All ships retreat!" But as his fleet tried to run, more human ships appeared. They came from nowhere, surrounding his forces. Each one was small compared to Consual vessels, but each one fought with the same impossible skill as the Iron Will. By the time Sung Ho escaped human space, he had lost half his fleet. The humans let him go, but he knew it was because they chose to, not because he had defeated them. Back with the main Consual fleet, Admiral Taemin listened to Sung Ho's report with growing anger. "You lost 100 ships to a handful of humans?" he demanded. "Sir, their technology is far beyond what we expected. Their weapons, their ships, their soldiers. They're not the primitives we thought they were." Commander Yuna, Taemin's intelligence officer, had been studying the battle reports. "Admiral, I think we should reconsider this invasion. The humans clearly have capabilities we didn't know about." Taemin slammed his fist on his command chair. "Impossible! They're primitives hiding behind tricks and luck." Sung Ho was careless. He was surprised. "That won't happen again." "But sir," Yuna began. "Enough," Taemin shouted. "We are the Galactic Consual. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We will not be stopped by a few humans with clever tricks." But privately, Taemin was worried. The battle reports didn't make sense. Human ships that could disappear and reappear. Weapons that made matter vanish. Soldiers who fought better than his best Marines. Maybe the humans were more dangerous than he had thought. On Earth, Prime Minister Kyung-soo met with his military leaders. The first battle was over and it had gone well. But it was just the beginning. "The Consual will come with their full force now," said General Subin. "Taemin is too proud to retreat after losing face." "Good," said Marshal Da-un. "Let them come. It's time the galaxy remembered why we were left alone." Director Ji-hai activated more hidden protocols. Across human space, things that had been sleeping for centuries began to wake up. Ships that looked like civilian vessels revealed their true nature. Colonies that seemed peaceful began preparing for war. Dr. Jae-hyun worked day and night in his laboratory. The Consual had seen only the smallest taste of human technology. Soon they would learn what humans had really been doing for the past 300 years. Admiral Hyunwoo received new orders from Earth Command. The gloves were coming off. The Terran Defense Force was about to show the galaxy its true strength. The warning beacons continued to broadcast their message as the Consual fleet approached. "Warning, Terran territory. Entry prohibited. This is your final notice." But Admiral Taemin had already decided to ignore the warnings. He was about to learn why that was the biggest mistake of his life. The Consual thought they were invading the territory of a weak, primitive race. Instead, they were about to wake up something that had been protecting the galaxy from itself for centuries. Something that was far more dangerous than anything they had ever faced. Admiral Yoon Seo stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Dancing Blade. Around her, 11 other human ships waited in formation. They were deep in human space now, far from the outer colonies. This was where they would make their stand. "Admiral," said her tactical officer, "Consual fleet approaching." 2,000 ships, Yoon Seo nodded. She had expected this. Admiral Taemin was coming with his full force. He was angry about the losses at the outer stations. He wanted to crush the humans quickly and completely. "Signal the fleet," she said. "Begin the dance." The 12 human ships began to move in a pattern that looked almost like art. They flowed through space like water, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. They had practiced this for years. Admiral Taemin watched the human formation from his flagship. He laughed when he saw how few ships they had brought. 12 ships against 2,000, he said to his fleet marshal. "General In-ho, the humans have lost their minds. Should we demand their surrender?" asked Tactical Coordinator Yoonji. "No," Taemin said. "After what happened to Sung Ho, I want these humans destroyed completely. All ships open fire." The space around the human fleet filled with weapons fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles flew toward the 12 ships. It should have been over in seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships moved like living things. They twisted and spun through the deadly fire, avoiding shots that should have been impossible to dodge. Their formation never broke. They seemed to know where every weapon would fire before it happened, and then they began to shoot back. Admiral Yoon Seo's ships had weapons that made no sense. They fired beams of pure energy that cut through consual shields like they weren't there. They launched missiles that seemed to think for themselves, finding weak spots in enemy armor. In the first minute of battle, 30 consual ships were destroyed. In the second minute, 50 more. By the end of the first hour, Admiral Taman had lost 300 ships and hadn't destroyed a single human vessel. How is this possible? General Inho whispered. But the real shock was yet to come. Captain Chang Min commanded the destroyer Ragnarok. His ship had taken heavy damage in the fighting. His shields were failing and his weapons were almost empty. By any reasonable measure, he should retreat. Instead, he did something that no consual commander could understand. All hands, this is the captain, Chang Min announced over the ship's speakers. We're going to ram the enemy dreadnought. Prepare for Berserker Protocol. His crew didn't argue. They didn't panic. Commander Ara, his second in command, began evacuating the crew to assault pods, but they weren't running away. They were preparing to board enemy ships. The Ragnarok accelerated toward the massive consual dreadnought Endless Victory. The alien ship tried to destroy it, but Chang Min's crew had rerouted all power to the engines and shields. Nothing could stop them now. The collision shook both ships. The Ragnarok was destroyed, but it had torn a huge hole in the enemy vessel. Before the consual could react, assault pods from the destroyed human ship were already flying toward them. Commander Ara led 30 human Marines into the Endless Victory. They wore armor that looked simple compared to consual gear, but it worked better than anything the aliens had ever seen. Their weapons cut through metal like air. But it wasn't their equipment that terrified the consual. It was how they fought. Human Marines didn't just try to win battles. They fought like the fate of their entire species depended on every shot. They moved through the alien ship like hunters working together with perfect coordination. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't show mercy. They just killed everything that stood in their way. Colonel Binwu was Ara's best soldier. He had fought in dozens of training exercises, but this was his first real battle. He moved through the consual ship like death itself, his weapons never missing, his armor never failing. The consual Marines tried to stop the human boarding party. They had better numbers, better armor, and more experience, but they had never fought anything like humans before. Human soldiers didn't fight to win. They fought to eliminate threats to their species' survival. Every human Marine was willing to die to protect their people. More importantly, they were very good at making their enemies die instead. In 2 hours, Commander Ara's 30 Marines had captured the entire dreadnought. Every consul on the ship was dead. The humans had taken control of one of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. Admiral Taman watched in horror as his flagship was captured from the inside. This wasn't how civilized warfare was supposed to work. The humans weren't just defeating his forces. They were doing impossible things, sir, said Commander Suhyun, his aide. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. The screen lit up to show Dr. Jae-hyun in his laboratory. Behind him, Taemin could see strange machines and displays covered in symbols he didn't recognize. Admiral Taemin, Dr. Jae-hyun said calmly. I am Dr. Jae-hyun, head of Terran Research Division. I have something to show you. The display changed to show star maps of consual space, but these weren't normal maps. They showed details that should have been impossible for humans to know. Military bases that were supposed to be secret, ship movements that happened in real time, technology that the consul thought was hidden. For 300 years, Dr. Jae-hyun continued, we have been watching you, learning about you, preparing for this day. The maps changed again. Now they showed human technology, weapons that could destroy planets, ships that could travel faster than anything the consul had, defenses that could stop any attack. We call these the Pandora Protocols, Dr. Jae-hyun said. We developed them specifically to counter every major species in the galaxy, including you. Admiral Taemin felt cold fear creeping up his spine. This is impossible. You're primitives. You don't have this kind of technology. We've been pretending to be primitives, Dr. Jae-hyun said. It was easier that way. Safer for everyone. But you forced us to reveal the truth. The transmission ended, but its message was clear. The humans hadn't been hiding from the galaxy because they were weak. They had been hiding because they were too strong. Director Ji-hai worked frantically in her command center. Reports were coming in from across human space. The consul weren't just fighting the obvious military targets. They were about to discover what human colonies really were. General Hwan-seok commanded what the galaxy thought was a simple farming colony on the world of New Seoul. In reality, it was one of dozens of hidden military bases that had been disguised for centuries. As Consual ships approached his world, Hwanseok gave a single order: drop the disguise. What had looked like farms and small towns suddenly revealed itself to be a massive fortress. Hidden weapons rose from underground bunkers. Ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers revealed their true nature as warships. The Consual fleet attacking New Seoul found themselves facing not helpless colonists, but a military force that had been preparing for this moment for 300 years. All across human space, the same thing was happening. Every colony was actually a forward military base. Every civilian ship was actually a warship in disguise. The humans had been playing a game of pretend for centuries, and now they were showing their true strength. Battle coordinator So Young managed the human war effort from her command center on Earth. She watched as her carefully planned deception unfolded across the galaxy. The Consual thought they were fighting a desperate defense. In reality, they had walked into the largest trap in galactic history. All units implement total warfare protocol, she ordered. This wasn't just military action. This was the complete dismantling of the Consual's ability to make war. Human cyber warfare specialist Jun Seo had been infiltrating Consual computer networks for decades. Now he activated programs that had been sleeping in their systems, waiting for this day. Consual ships suddenly found their own computers turning against them. Navigation systems failed. Weapons wouldn't fire. Some ships even began attacking their own allies as their computer systems were taken over by human programs. Admiral Taemin realized that everything he thought he knew was wrong. The humans weren't primitive. They weren't weak. They had been the most dangerous species in the galaxy all along, and they had been pretending to be harmless. General Inho, he said quietly, signal the fleet. Begin retreat, sir? Inho asked in surprise. We've made a terrible mistake, Taemin said. These aren't the primitives we thought they were. If we stay here, they'll destroy us all. But as the Consual fleet tried to retreat, they discovered something even more terrifying. Admiral Hyunwoo's forces had moved to block their escape routes. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were making sure no Consual ship would leave human space alive. This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the Terran Defense Force, came the transmission. You were warned not to enter our space. Now you'll learn why. The Consul had thought they were invading the territory of a weak species. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping for centuries. Something that was about to remind the galaxy why humans had been left alone for so long. Something that was much more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars. The Eternal Dominion was a good ship, strong and fast. It had been his home for 10 years now. His crew knew their jobs well. They patrolled the edge of human space, watching for trouble that never came. Admiral, said Lieutenant Sora from her station, we're getting a message. It's coming from outside our space. Hyunwoo turned around. Messages from outside were rare. Most alien races left humans alone. They had done so for hundreds of years. Put it on screen, he said. The main screen lit up. A tall alien appeared on it. His skin was blue-gray and his eyes were yellow. He wore a uniform covered in medals and symbols. Behind him, Hyunwoo could see the bridge of a massive ship. I am Fleet Admiral Taemin of the Galactic Consual 3rd Armada, the alien said. His voice was cold and proud. You will listen to my words carefully, humans. Hyunwoo felt his crew tense up around him. The Galactic Consual was powerful. They ruled most of the galaxy. They had destroyed many worlds and conquered many races, but they had never bothered humans before. Your time of hiding is over, Taemin continued. The Consual has decided that human space is too valuable to waste on primitives. You have 7 days to remove all your people from the colonies. You will take your ships back to your homeworld and stay there. Anyone who refuses will be destroyed. The message ended. The bridge was quiet for a moment, sir, Sora asked softly. Send this to Earth Command right away, Hyunwoo said. Full priority. Back on Earth, Director Ji-Hai sat in her office deep under the ground. The Terran Strategic Command Center was always busy, but now it was chaos. Screens showed data from across human space. People ran between workstations carrying reports and orders. Captain Do-hyun burst into her office. Ma'am, we have a problem. The Consual is demanding we leave our colonies. Ji-Hai nodded. She had been expecting this day for a long time. How many ships? Intelligence says 50,000 warships. Maybe more. Their ground forces number in the billions. Jihai was quiet for a moment. The Consual was strong. They had weapons that could crack planets. They had conquered races far more advanced than most people thought humans were. "Ma'am?" Du-hyun asked. "What are your orders?" Jihai stood up and walked to a wall safe. She put her hand on a scanner. The safe opened. Inside was a red keycard. She had hoped never to use it. "Activate the warning beacons," she said. Du-hyun's eyes went wide. "All of them?" "All of them." The warning beacons were huge structures floating in space at the edge of human territory. They had been there for 300 years. Most people had forgotten why they were built. They were as big as space stations and powered by fusion reactors that could run for thousands of years. The beacons came to life. They began broadcasting on every frequency that intelligent life might use. The message was simple and clear. "Warning. Terran territory. Entry prohibited. This is your final notice." The message went out in over 1,000 languages. It used pictures and math that any thinking being would understand. It played over and over again. Admiral Taemin's fleet was still several days away from human space when they encountered the first beacon. It was massive, bigger than many of his ships. His bridge crew stared at it in surprise. "What is that thing?" asked Commander Woo Jin, his tactical officer. "Some kind of warning device," Taemin said. He laughed. "Primitives always bark the loudest when they know they're beaten." The beacon's message played across their communication systems. Taemin listened to it once, then ordered it turned off. "Should we study it, sir?" Woo Jin asked. "It might tell us something about human technology." "Destroy it," Taemin ordered. "We don't need to waste time on human tricks." The beacon exploded in a flash of light. But there were more beacons ahead. Many more. On Earth, General Subin was very busy. She commanded all of Earth's ground forces. Her soldiers were the best trained in human space, but even she was worried. The Consual had billions of troops. Their weapons were advanced. Their armor was strong, but Subin had advantages too. She activated protocols that had been sleeping for centuries. Across Earth, hidden bases came to life. Weapons that had been stored in secret places were brought out and prepared. Soldiers who had been living normal lives reported for duty. Dr. Jae-hyun was equally busy in his laboratory. He was the head of the Terran Research Division. His job was to study alien technology and develop new weapons. For 300 years, his department had been preparing for this day. He opened files that were marked with the highest security levels. Inside were plans for weapons and defenses that the public had never heard of. Some of them used technology that other races thought was impossible. "Begin unsealing the prototype vaults," he told his assistant. "All of them?" "Sir, are you sure?" "Some of those projects were sealed for good reasons." "The Consual made their choice," Jae-hyun said. "Now we make ours." Admiral Taemin's fleet destroyed 12 more beacons as they moved toward human space. Each one broadcast the same warning. Each time, Taemin ordered it destroyed without a second thought. His officers began to look worried. Commander Woo Jin tried again to suggest they should study the beacons more carefully. "Sir, these structures are quite advanced. The humans might be more dangerous than we thought." Taemin was getting angry. "Dangerous? They're primitives hiding behind walls of metal and empty threats. When we reach their space, you'll see how dangerous they really are." But privately, Taemin was starting to wonder. The beacons were very advanced. They used technology his own scientists didn't fully understand. And there were so many of them. Why would primitives build such expensive warning systems unless they had something to hide? On Earth, Prime Minister Kyung-soo called an emergency meeting of the Terran Parliament. Representatives from all human worlds attended by video link. The chamber was tense and quiet. "The Galactic Consual has made their intentions clear," Kyung-soo said. "They want our worlds. They think we're weak. They think we'll surrender without a fight." He paused and looked around the chamber. "They're wrong." The vote was unanimous. The extinction protocols were activated. It was a decision that hadn't been made in over 300 years. It meant that humanity would not just defend itself. It meant they would make sure that any threat to human survival was completely eliminated. Marshal Da-eun received her orders with a grim smile. Her ground forces were the finest in human space. They had trained for this day their entire lives. Now they would show the galaxy why humans had been left alone for so long. Admiral Seung-jun prepared the home fleet. His ships looked old and simple compared to Consual vessels. But looks could be deceiving. Human ships were built for one purpose: to destroy anything that threatened human survival. As the Consual fleet approached human space, they had no idea what was waiting for them. They thought they were about to conquer another primitive race. Instead, they were about to wake up something that had been sleeping for centuries, something that was much more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. 3 months after the Third Armada's destruction, Fleet Admiral Na Yun led the human fleet to the Consual homeworld. The journey that should have taken years was completed in days using human technology that bent space itself. The planet Consual Prime hung in space like a blue jewel, surrounded by the most powerful defenses in galactic history, orbital stations the size of moons, defense grids that could destroy entire fleets, shields that had never been breached in 1,000 years of warfare. Strategic Coordinator Bei Jin studied the planet's defenses from her command ship. Her computers had been analyzing Consual military doctrine for centuries. She knew exactly how to break their strongest fortifications. All units, begin implementation of Siege Protocol Omega, she ordered. The human fleet spread out around the planet in a formation that looked almost artistic. Each ship took a specific position, calculated to maximum effect. They didn't just surround the world. They created a 3-dimensional web that covered every possible escape route. Fleet Captain Rion commanded the assault group. Her ships began firing weapons that the Consual had never seen before. They didn't try to break through the planetary shields. Instead, they began unraveling them at the quantum level, causing the entire defense grid to collapse from within. Supreme Admiral Moon Young watched from his command bunker deep under the planet's surface. His tactical displays showed impossible things. Human ships that seemed to exist in multiple places at once, weapons that reached through his defenses without breaking them. An enemy that understood his technology better than he did. "How many ships do they have?" he asked General Kyungmin. "Our sensors can't get accurate readings. The human technology interferes with our systems. But estimates suggest at least 10,000 vessels." Moon Young felt despair settle over him. The humans had hidden their true strength for centuries. What the galaxy had thought was their entire military was just a tiny fraction of their real power. Admiral Tae-min sat in a human prison cell, one of the few survivors of his destroyed fleet. The humans had kept him alive for a specific purpose. Now Captain Do-hyun came to deliver their final message. "Admiral," Do-hyun said politely, "Director Ji-hai has asked me to give you something." He handed Tae-min a datapad. On it was a complete analysis of the battle that had destroyed the Third Armada. Every move the Consul had made had been predicted. Every tactic had been countered before it was even attempted. "Your people think this war started when you invaded our space," Do-hyun explained. "In reality, it started 300 years ago when we decided you were a threat that would eventually need to be eliminated." Tae-min read the report with growing horror. The humans hadn't just defended themselves. They had orchestrated the entire conflict to lure the Consul into a trap that had been centuries in the making. "Why?" he whispered. "Because you're a threat to galactic peace," Do-hyun said simply. "You conquer and destroy. You treat other species as things to be used. We've been protecting the galaxy from you for 3 centuries. Now it's time to end that threat permanently." On Consual Prime, the planetary defenses finally fell. General Subin led the first wave of human ground forces to the surface. Her soldiers moved through the alien cities like ghosts, their advanced technology making them nearly invisible to Consual sensors. The Consual military tried to resist, but they were facing an enemy that had been preparing for this exact scenario for centuries. Human soldiers knew the layout of every important building. They knew the weaknesses of every defensive position. They had studied their enemies so completely that the battle was over before it began. Marshal Da-un coordinated the occupation from her command ship. Her forces weren't conquering the planet. They were systematically dismantling the Consul's ability to make war. Military bases were destroyed. Weapon factories were shut down. Shipyards were reduced to scrap metal, but the civilians were left untouched. Human soldiers protected non-combatants with the same efficiency they used to destroy military targets. The message was clear: the humans weren't monsters. They were surgeons removing a cancer from the galaxy with precision. Supreme Admiral Moon Young realized that resistance was hopeless. His forces were being destroyed by an enemy that seemed to know his every move before he made it. His weapons couldn't penetrate human defenses. His soldiers couldn't compete with human technology. He sent a final transmission to the human fleet. We surrender. Director HFY received the surrender aboard her flagship. She had been coordinating the entire operation from space, watching as centuries of planning came to fruition. The Consual Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, was finished. Captain Do-hyun presented the surrender terms to what remained of Consual leadership. The conditions were simple and non-negotiable: complete demilitarization, technology transfers to human oversight, and permanent monitoring to ensure compliance. "You're destroying our civilization," protested General Kyungmin. "No," Do-hyun replied calmly. "We're saving the galaxy from your civilization. There's a difference." Diplomatic envoy Hyo-jin explained the new reality to the stunned Consual leaders. "For 3,000 years you've conquered and destroyed. You've treated other species as resources to be consumed. That ends now." The terms were harsh but not cruel. The Consual would be allowed to keep their homeworld and their culture, but they would never again be allowed to threaten anyone. Human monitoring stations would ensure compliance. Human technology would prevent any attempt to rebuild their military. 6 months later, Director HFY stood before the Galactic Council. Representatives from dozens of species listened in stunned silence as she explained the new order. "The Consual Empire is no more," she announced. "Their military has been disbanded. Their weapons have been destroyed. Their ability to threaten galactic peace has been permanently eliminated." The alien representatives looked at her with mixtures of fear and awe. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the most powerful military force in galactic history in a matter of months. "What do you want from us?" asked the Altarian ambassador. "Peace," HFY said simply. "We've been protecting this galaxy for centuries. We prefer to do it quietly without drawing attention to ourselves. But if anyone else decides to threaten galactic stability, they'll face the same fate as the Consual." Dr. Jae-hyun addressed the council next, explaining humanity's technological capabilities. The displays he showed made it clear that human science was centuries ahead of anything the galaxy had imagined. Weapons that could destroy stars, ships that could travel between dimensions, defenses that could protect entire worlds. "We've had this technology for centuries," he explained. "We chose not to use it because we believed in peaceful coexistence, but we will use it to protect innocent species from aggressors." The council voted unanimously to accept human protection. They had no choice. The alternative was to face the same fate as the Consual. Prime Minister Kyung-soo established the new government for former Consual territories. Human administrators would work with local leaders to create peaceful, stable societies. The goal wasn't conquest but rehabilitation. Admiral Seung-jun took command of the new Galactic Peace Enforcement Fleet. His ships would patrol the galaxy, watching for threats to stability. The sight of human vessels would serve as a reminder of what happened to those who chose aggression over peace. A year later, the galaxy had settled into its new reality. Marshal Da-eun trained peacekeeping forces drawn from multiple species. Dr. Jae-hyun led research initiatives that would benefit all galactic civilizations. The technology that had once been used for war was now being used to heal and protect. The warning beacons at the edge of human space still broadcast their message, but now it was different. Terran territory. Entry by invitation only. Peace through strength. Admiral Hyun-woo returned to his patrol duties along the borders of human space. His ships were still there, still watching, still ready, but now the galaxy knew what they were really guarding against. Not threats from outside, threats from within. The Consual had learned too late that humanity had never been hiding from stronger powers. They had been protecting the galaxy from the strongest power of all, themselves. For 3 centuries, humans had chosen to remain hidden, letting other species believe they were primitive and weak. They had watched from the shadows as empires rose and fell, intervening only when necessary to prevent complete galactic catastrophe. But the Consual had forced them to reveal themselves. They had made humans show the galaxy their true nature. Now everyone knew the truth that the warning beacons had been trying to tell them all along. Humanity was not hiding because they were weak. They were hiding because they were too strong, and now that the secret was out, the galaxy would never be the same again. The age of conquest was over. The age of human protection had begun, and anyone who chose to threaten galactic peace would learn exactly why the Consual had been warned to stay away from Terran territory.